Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the what if. Chapter 15. All eyes on me. Naruto yawned and made his way out on deck as the sun just began peeking over the horizon. He was always the first on the crew to rise, right before Miss Valentine, who was right under Naruto when it came to morning energy. He always picked this time of day to get up and send a few of his clones out as far out on the ocean as they could go so he could train in peace before anyone could wake up. They could only practice for so long before they dispelled, but he didn't care. He had more or less peaked long ago in his strength. At this point it was more or a concept of maintenance at this point. He also came to check on the guard clones he had posted. No one on the ship manned the crow's nest during the night because Naruto could simply make clones and keep them in place on night watch while everyone else slept. He trained everyone so hard that making them take watch as well would have been cruel and unproductive to boot. As he made his way to the helm to go ahead and get the day started, he saw Vivi off at the opposite side of the ship, leaning on the railing staring out at the sunrise. Naruto started to walk over to the princess. She didn't even go to bed last night. "It is pretty beautiful, isn't it?" Naruto said as he made his way over to her. The way she jumped in surprise, she must have been thinking very hard since he had done absolutely nothing to mask his presence to her. "You might want to not stare at it so intensely though, it might mess up your eyes." Vivi turned and set her back against the railing. "Oh, good morning Naruto." She greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I didn't know anyone else would be up at this hour. But with your clones going all about the ship I shouldn't be surprised." "Yeah," Naruto returned with a toothy grin, not letting on that he could tell she wasn't feeling too upbeat today. "They're such good little deckhands, aren't they?" "Fuck you, boss," one of the clones shouted in response to its creator, ending in Naruto dispelling it with a roll of his eyes, getting a small giggle from Vivi. Alright, at least he was able to make her smile a little bit. He looked at all of his clones. "I don't need the rest of you anyway, the sun's up now." With that, Naruto dispelled the clones he had populating the ship, getting an interesting memory that forced him to abruptly leave Vivi and run up the mast to the very top, where he looked at a black flag that he knew for a fact he hadn't put up there and hadn't existed before he had gotten off in Alabasta. On the flag there was a skeleton with Naruto's blonde haircut right down to the Hite-8 on its forehead. It also, instead of having a usual Jolly Roger appearance, it had a grin much like one that Naruto regularly wore, and its eye holes squinted much like Naruto's own eyes usually took. Behind the skeleton were two crossing kunai instead of crossing bones. On the mast in the crow's nest he found a message carved. "Don't be a stranger, Mr. Uzumaki. I'll see you again soon enough, I'm certain of it. Stay alive until then, alright? You are a very strange person, and I'm holding you and Straw Hat Luffy responsible for my ongoing existence, so do not forget that at some point you must take responsibility for your actions." Nico Robin. Naruto shook his head confusedly. "Take responsibility? I wasn't aware that keeping people alive made me responsible for them." "Oh well, at least she's super good looking." With that, Naruto jumped down and landed next to Vivi as he pointed up. "Apparently we have a Jolly Roger now." Vivi looked up at it in confusion. She hadn't noticed it, and neither had anyone else. With all that had happened the day before, no one really had any reason to pay attention to details like that. They were too busy hightailing it away from Alabasta. "Who made it?" "Your clones." Naruto shook his head. "No, Nico Robin." He saw Vivi's eyes turn angry at mention of her. "Oh what? Miss Valentine used to be in Baroque Works too. She still uses the name they gave her." Vivi shook her head. "That's different. I got to know Miss Valentine in the way to Alubarna, and she really isn't a bad person." Naruto gave an amused smirk. "How do you know Robin-chan isn't a good person either?" "Everyone has their own reasons for doing stuff. She might not be nearly as bad as people make her out to be, at least that's what I get from her." His smirk dropped and he put a hand on Vivi's shoulder. "It's over. Crocodile was the mastermind, and now he's in prison nursing over some serious Luffy-caused bruises. If you ever see her again, take it up with her then, but until then don't obsess over it. Obsession makes people do terrible things." Vivi's eyes stopped holding such rage and she looked up at the ship's captain. "How old are you, Naruto?" Naruto sighed. "I'm already doing this with Nami-chan, and I'm not letting anyone else get into the little betting pool. If you started guessing, you would be guessing for fun." Vivi blinked. Wasn't aware it was a game of sorts. How could it possibly be a game that was any good? You don't look a day over 25 at the oldest. Seriously, Naruto had to be one of the strangest people she had ever met. Just by himself he was right up there with the entire Straw Hat crew when it came to being weird. Naruto winked at her slyly. What can I say, my princess? I age gracefully. Very gracefully. No one ages that gracefully. Vivi replied, somewhat amused by his cavalier tone. There has to be some indicator on you. That's a clear indicator. Like an ID of some kind. Why would I need ID? Naruto stated, what could possibly be an advantage of letting people know anything about me other than my name and that I can kick their ass? Written records are for chumps. Vivi's sweat dropped. Well, maybe we should cut you open and count the rings. Naruto opened his mouth to reply before he stopped. No one's ever said that one before. He stroked his chin in thought. Come to think of it, I have no idea if that would actually work or not. It sounds legit. Maybe someone should try it. Vivi's face faulted on the deck. What are you, a tree? How could you possibly think that might work? She pulled herself up and marched inside. I'm going inside and waiting for someone with an IQ to wake up. I'll be waiting forever for Miss Valentine or Nojiko to get up. Naruto chuckled as she disappeared from sight. At least I was able to get her to stop fretting over what happened to her in Alabasta for a little bit. Naruto was quick to accept Vivi's passage on his ship upon hearing her situation. He figured it was a stroke of luck she ran into Soren before everyone got out of the country, but one that was more than welcome. Of course Naruto had requested that she be forced to barter passage to stay aboard his ship, in the form of her repeating the dance she did when he initially met her. Nojiko then clocked him across the back of the head with the butt of her pistol and proceeded to show Vivi around the ship, leaving Naruto to bleed all over the deck. Johnny and Yosaku were not pleased to clean that up. And then there was the case of the late-night visitor that Naruto's clones had gotten once everyone was asleep. Flashback. Last night, a good amount of Naruto's clones had been cut down while hard at work keeping everything running while everyone else slept. Feeling his clones die over and over finally alerted Naruto to wake up and head out onto deck to see what the major issue was. As soon as he got out in the open he immediately dropped to the ground as something flew over his head, almost cutting right through him. Obviously how his clones died. This guy had gotten the drop on them. Naruto stood back up with a stony expression and cracked his knuckles as he awaited another attack, standing perfectly still with his eyes closed. After a moment the shadow descended at him again, coming at high speed, but Naruto opened his eyes to reveal his eyes had once again taken on the colored pigmentation around his eyes and the bar-like pupils before figuring the figure's trajectory and grabbing it by the throat, stopping in its tracks. Naruto looked at what was in his hands with a confused look as his features returned to normal. You're that Pell guy. Naruto dropped the Falcon Man to the ground, letting him grab at his neck and gasp for air. What are you doing here? Pell got his breath and growled at Naruto in his Falcon-human hybrid form. He got up and slashed at Naruto with his talons, forcing the blonde to begin dodging. You know what you did. You almost destroyed Alubarna and kidnapped our princess. You bastard pirate. Naruto sighed and got a tick mark on his head as he continued to keep out of Pell's reach all over the deck of the ship. First of all, people are sleeping. Second of all, I didn't destroy Alubarna, it was that asshole that could turn himself into light. Third of all, I didn't kidnap anyone, so you need to get your facts straight. And finally, and most importantly of all, I'm not a pirate. Naruto drove this point home by driving his fist right into Pell's body, bringing the man to his knees and turning him back to normal when he stepped on his head to keep him pinned. Pell groaned in effort of trying to stand back up. You lie. King Cobra gave a speech about your actions today. If only I were 100%. If you were 100% you'd still be laying there with my boot on your head, you'd just be laying there at 100%. Naruto said coldly. Now what did you just say? Pell glared at Naruto until he increased the pressure on Pell's head with his sandal. Please speak quickly. People that attack me have a bad habit of dying. You're just lucky that we were allies at one point. Pell struggled to get the words out as Naruto continued to push down on his head. Today the king said that you had begun to run amok throughout the city and had gotten into full combat with the Marines stationed there to help us. Naruto snorted. Duh, what was I supposed to do? Let them catch me. That was just a diversion so my crew could escape. I didn't cause any major damage until the admiral that turns into light showed up and fought me. Bastard was fast too. You're a pirate first and an ally second. What would you have me believe? You, or the words of my king? Pell said as he felt Naruto lighten up with his boot. He took that opportunity to draw his saber and swing at Naruto, forcing him off. He stood up swiftly and took a swing at Naruto, who ejected a kunai from the sleeve of his coat and blocked Pell's sword. Seeing as how talking was getting him nowhere, Naruto was about to resort to his old stalwart tactic of getting people to listen to him, beat the crap out of them so badly that they couldn't move away to not listen to him. It was his oldest tried and true tactic. Naruto swung his kunai outward, sending Pell's sword arm to the side with his strength. Naruto spun a 360 into Pell's guard and finished with a hard clothesline right to the throat that flattened Pell, sending him to the ground right on his back. Naruto dropped a knee, trapping Pell's sword arm underneath, and held the kunai to his throat. Are we done? I can keep this up all night. I've got 4 hours to sunrise and a whole crate of whoop ass all for you. Naruto. Vivi stood at the doorway leading inside of the ship, staring at Naruto hovering over the defeated form of Pell. You're alive. She ran over to Naruto and saw the gleam of his kunai in the moonlight. What are you doing? Princess Vivi, get away until I can defeat this man. Pell shouted from the ground. I'll get you back to Alabasta, just hold on. Gah. Naruto rolled his eyes and bounced the back of Pell's head off of the wood. Stop it. Stop fighting. Vivi shouted. Naruto gave her a dry look. He attacked me on my ship, called me a kidnapper, and pulled a sword on me. If there's one thing I hate, it's people questioning my integrity. I'm no liar. Vivi looked at Naruto and nodded. Just let him up and I'll explain everything, okay? Just stop hurting him. Naruto looked down at Pell and back to Vivi before sending his kunai back inside of his sleeve and getting off of Alabasta's elite guard and taking a place leaning against the main mast. Pell stood up and shook out his arm after resheathing his sword and continued to glare at Naruto until Vivi pulled on his arm to get him to stop. Princess, let's go. Vivi shook her head. Father sent me away from Alabasta for my own safety. Your own safety? Pell said in surprise, but the rebellion is over, Crocodile is gone. What could there be to protect you from? Naruto chose this moment to chime in. How about those guys that run the entire world from their armchairs in that Marijoy place? Those teams. Pell looked confused. The Gorause. He looked at Vivi. What is he talking about? Vivi looked down. The world government is aware of my efforts to stop Crocodile, right down to me joining Baroque Works undercover. In order to keep me from being a political prisoner, my father sent me out of the country where I found the Foxhound pirates and left with them. Naruto grumbled. And you're saying he said I kidnapped her? Either he has ridiculous foresight, he can see what Vivi is doing from miles away, or he simply used my gigantic diversion to make me a scapegoat to keep Vivi from being hunted down. Vivi's eyes widened. He what? But that means that you're going to be in way more trouble now than you were before. That's not fair. All you did was run away. You didn't really do anything. Naruto sighed. It can't be helped now, Vivi. It's my word against the king of Alabasta or against the world government. Besides, I'm kind of used to being a scapegoat. It will be fine, as long as they don't catch me, everything will be okay, right? He pasted a smile on his face, hoping that Vivi didn't see through it. She looked at him sadly. Do you hate my father, Naruto? Naruto shook his head. Not really. I mean, I'm kind of pissed for sure, but chances are that I was going to get into some massive trouble of my own at some point anyway. This just sped up the process. Being the main man in control, he had to hold back the urge to scream curses at the top of his lungs and slam his head repeatedly into the mast. He wasn't good enough to fix that if he broke it. Vivi walked up to him and gave him a short hug. Thank you so much for everything. You just keep helping me and I just... Naruto patted the girl on the back comfortingly. It's all right, Vivi. You're a friend of ours and you needed our help. It's that simple. Now go get some rest. Naruto let her go and Vivi pulled away rather reluctantly before heading back inside, sparing one last glance to the blonde shinobi and her country's most powerful warrior. Naruto sighed to Pell. Man, I didn't see this coming at all. It looks like I'm fighting the forces that keep this place together again. A faint smile crossed his face. All I have to do now is just defeat the world. That should be easy enough, right? Pell kept sharp eyes on Naruto. I'm entrusting the princess to you. I trust her judgment with companions after what she accomplished against Baroque works, but I'm warning you. If any harm befalls her under your watch, there won't be anywhere in the Grand Line you can hide from me. Understood. Naruto nodded. Sheesh. Why is it that for every woman that hops aboard my ship I end up getting threatened by the male figure in their life? First Nojiko and Genzo, then Miss Valentine and Mr. Five, and now Vivi and you. It's like an annoying pattern. Pell didn't rise to Naruto's attempt at making a joke. I'm dead serious. Keep her safe or you will be hearing from me again. Naruto's joking facade dropped. You don't have to make threats to me. I was going to keep her safe even if you hadn't stormed my ship. She'll be fine with me until she can come home. You can be sure of that. I promise. Seemingly satisfied with Naruto's answer, Pell turned into his falcon form and took to the skies back towards Alabasta. End flashback. Having the entire world at your throat was an experience that Naruto wasn't looking forward to experiencing. He needed to get himself back into war shape. Thinking on this, he made a batch of Kage Bunshin and watched as they all scattered out across the surface of the ocean before vanishing from sight. He watched them all before a lithe figure draped over his back and lightly wrapped their arms around his neck. Good morning, Naruto. The person cheerfully chirped before laughing slightly, dressed in her usual attire she had on before coming to Alabasta. Naruto smiled at the greeting. Hello, Miss Valentine. You seem to be more chipper than usual today. What's up? The blonde woman simply laughed again and shrugged it off. Well, now that Crocodile's been dealt with and I can do whatever I want now, I feel way better than I did when we started working together. Thank you for leaving me alive, by the way. You're welcome, Valentine, Naruto said, but unless I'm given a really good reason, I don't kill women. Seeing as how you seem to trust me, can you give me your real name now? Baroque works is obliterated. There's no reason to keep it. Miss Valentine shook her head happily. Nope, I'm going to keep making you all call me Miss Valentine. My code name was the only thing about Baroque works that I actually liked. Well now, Naruto replied with vested interest, I sense a challenge there somewhere. Alright, now I'm definitely going to figure out your name by the time our adventures end. That's a guarantee, Datbeo. He frowned to himself. Damn it, why is that surfacing again? Kyahahaha. And why would you want to do something like that, huh? Miss Valentine asked as she steadily started increasing her weight with her devil fruit power. It doesn't seem like anything particularly interesting. Naruto grinned at her as he had yet to even buckle as she slowly grew heavier. Because out of everyone here I know the least about you, and maybe Vivi, but she's just here until she can go home. On the other hand, you're actually crew. If I can figure out what your name is, then that means that we're extremely close for me to know that about you, which is what I want. Miss Valentine's bright green eyes blinked at Naruto, mirthful blue ones, her objective of teasing him by making him crumple under her weight lost. Why would you want to get close enough to know my real name anyway? Because when I fight for someone I like being friends with them. Naruto replied, it helps me fight harder to help you guys out. He simply looked back over his shoulder at her confused expression. You know, this power of yours can do a whole lot more than just let you float and stuff. Miss Valentine lowered her weight and let go of Naruto. What do you mean? Naruto smiled at her. The power you have of changing your weight whenever you want. There's a lot of potential there for attacks and defense. Can you control what you change in weight, like just one limb instead of your whole body? A look of understanding came over her face before she shook her head. I don't know. I've never tried it. You mean like making one arm weigh as much as I can and while leaving the rest normal? Naruto nodded. Yeah, or making one limb lighter so you can move it faster and then making it heavy just in time to smash into someone. You could tear right through things if you fought like that. Miss Valentine started unsurely. I've never tried before. I'm not much for direct fighting, Naruto. She rubbed her shoulder uncomfortably. Wait, are you telling me to train? Naruto smirked at her. Well, if you want to make sure that guys like Crocodile can't tell you what to do ever again, then I would. Your power could be scary strong if what we just talked about could actually work. Or were you just planning to sit back and look pretty the next time we end up in a fight? Miss Valentine's smile returned as she batted her eyes sweetly at her captain. Are you saying you think I'm beautiful, Naruto? How forward of you. Naruto rolled his eyes. I don't think you're beautiful, you're absolutely gorgeous, especially from what I saw with you in that belly dancer outfit in Alabasta. Do you girls still have those clothes? Miss Valentine nodded, getting an evil laugh out of Naruto as he headed inside the ship. Oh Vivi. I think I'm ready to collect on your trade for passage now. What was that, Naruto-kun? A voice called out in a sickeningly sweet voice from the common room when he made it inside. I wake up and before I can even say hello to you I find you perving on Vivi already. We haven't even had breakfast yet. No, Noji-chan, I didn't mean it like that. He pleaded. I'd be more than happy to have you dance for me too. You're just as sexy as Vivi is. Seriously, did you really just say that out loud? Nojiko's voice asked Naruto in disbelief. Are you sure you just act dumb? Naruto let out a sigh. Blame my master, he always did say he'd get me too, I just never figured it would be from beyond the grave. The pull of perversion would get too strong the older I got, he always said. Well, luckily I'm here to keep your deviancy in check. Now hold still, Nojiko said sweetly. Crack. Fuck. Naruto shouted. That seriously hurt. Why the fuck does that hurt so much? Nothing else hurts like that. I really don't like doing that to you, Naruto-kun. The inflection of her voice kind of hinted towards the contrary, but someone has to teach you how to treat ladies. Sniff. It's okay I guess. He said. Could you kiss it and make it all better? Nope. Nojiko responded cheerfully. If I did then you wouldn't learn anything. Naruto's voice sounded pouty. Damn, hey Miss Valentine, can you kiss it and make it better? A low amount of killing intent could be felt from inside. Hey, you said I needed to learn. Well, I learned that if you won't do it there might be another girl on the ship that will. There are 3 after all. Nojiko's killing intent magnified, but didn't seem to deter Naruto. I think I could apply that towards more than just kissing a bump and a bruise here or there. Click. Bang. Stop doing that log switchy thing when I shoot at you. Take the bullet like a man. The sound of Nojiko reloading her pistol could be heard. All I give you is love and all I get back are bullets. What kind of relationship is that? Naruto howled indignantly. Miss Valentine laughed to herself all the while Nojiko was chasing Naruto throughout the ship, disturbing the peace of the morning as she herself went on inside to start breakfast for the rest of the crew. These people were really growing on her. She hadn't had so much fun in her entire life. XXX. Now that they were back out on the sea it was business as usual for the crew. Naruto was manning the helm and keeping watch for anything out of the ordinary that he was either going to avoid or jump right into out of interest. Nojiko was inside making sure they at least knew which general direction the ship was headed in. She wasn't as good at navigating as Nami was, but at the very least she was steadily improving. You kind of had to when going the wrong way meant death. Soren was in his usual place up in the crow's nest keeping a watchful eye, closed, because he wasn't watching a damn thing, he was sleeping. Vivi had no clue of what she was to do on this ship. It was just like when she was on the Going Merry, only there wasn't much she could say. There was no major enemy on the horizon or anything like that, she was just there. Miss Valentine had found something to do to go right along with the group dynamic of doing absolutely nothing. In an effort to help Johnny improve on his speed he was forced, by Naruto of course, to carry her, running at top speed, all around the ship piggyback. Not too difficult, until she started using the kilo no mi to increase her weight. Cruel, yes. Effective, yes. Hilarious for Naruto to hear Miss Valentine shouting encouragement as she added on extra weight to increase the intensity of the workout. Yes. Meanwhile Yosaku had found his own workout instead of waiting for his captain to dole one out to him. Yosaku stood on deck, sweating buckets as he swung a massive stone hammer about the deck in his usual sword forms. His form was very slow, but that was the point of the exercise, to give his attacks more power and to see if he couldn't increase his speed. Naruto watched from up above where the helm was, simply watching him work. Yosaku, how heavy is that? No idea, he grunted out as he continued working out. No idea. Naruto sweat dropped. How the hell did you even get it? Yosaku kept swinging his hammer about through his sword forms, painstakingly keeping his posture and working. I had some artisan in Alubarna carve it for me while we were resting there. He set the massive hammer over his shoulder like he usually did when he rested his Nodashi there. He carved it from some massive block. I think it's got to be around 1,000 pounds. Naruto's eyebrows raised up past his hite 1,000 pounds. Naruto was sufficiently impressed until he thought of something and made a half-tiger seal. Hey, wait a minute, I never put your weights back on. Fuin. Yosaku blanched before face faulting on the deck, hammer slamming down on top of him. Damn you Naruto Aniki. Naruto nodded in satisfaction, and there you go, it's changed, it's a changeling. He heard Yosaku mumbling curses to Naruto from beneath the training hammer. You're lucky I didn't turn the weight up, now get up and learn to walk with that hammer again. Yosaku squirmed from beneath his hammer and started dragging it around the deck. Hey! Don't scuff the wood. Do you know how to fix a ship? No. Yosaku snapped right back. Then pick that massive son of a bitch up and carry it or don't use it at all. Naruto finished firmly. We need to make this thing last. It's my baby. Yosaku heaved it over his shoulder to get used to holding the weight for as long as he could. What are you going to call it, Naruto Aniki? Call it? Naruto asked. What do you mean what am I going to call it? It's a ship, I'll call it a ship. I am infected by your stupidity Uzumaki. Soren called out lazily from the crow's nest. Getting sick of having the sun beat down on his head from up there, he took to wrapping a red bandana around his head to keep the harsh rays off. He looked down at the captain. Every halfway decent ship has a name. Even the Straw Hats named their ship the Going Merry, and this tub is twice the ship theirs is. Naruto thought to himself, you're right. My ship stomps theirs into the ground just off of sheer color palette alone. That got a round of sweat drops from everyone in sight. Naruto made a cage bunshin and sent it in to go get Nojiko, who emerged a moment later. I think you might want to be here for this. Miss Valentine hopped off of Johnny's back, letting the poor swordsman collapse in a heap on the ground in exhaustion. Yep, Naruto's going to name the ship. Nojiko looked up at Naruto with a raised eyebrow. You haven't named this thing in 2 months and you're just going to do it now. Naruto looked away sheepishly. Well, I still don't really have a name for it. I was kind of hoping one of you guys did. All around the ship every single person's face lit up at hearing that. From his spot in the crow's nest Soren gleefully shouted down his answer. How about, the Abomination? Because this piece of shit looks like it got violated by the paint section of a hardware store. Yosaku ran up to the stairs leading to the helm where Naruto was. How about, badass mother? Johnny quickly recovered and ran right next to his partner. No. Badass mother 3000. Twice as fast as your ass, yeah. Miss Valentine floated over both of them and landed on top of them, squashing them with her fruit's power. How about, the interceptor? Naruto thought on it for a moment. Nah, won't work. Johnny and Yosaku nodded in agreement from underneath Miss Valentine. Yeah, that name just doesn't scream awesome the way we're trying to get across. You've got to have something better than that. Miss Valentine then increased her weight, slowly squashing both men underneath her. Nojiko walked past them up towards Naruto and leaned on his shoulder, her face scrunched in thought at the question of the day. Naruto wrapped an arm around her shoulder. You got something, Noji-chan? Nojiko turned towards Naruto and looked up at him, a grin slowly spreading across her face. What about, the natural disaster? Naruto looked at her curiously, which just made her amusement larger. Why that name? Johnny and Yosaku moved Miss Valentine off of them and ran upstairs to Naruto and Nojiko. Yeah, why that name? Why not our name? Nojiko bopped both of them on the head to get some space, because that name doesn't tell people anything about us. On the other hand, we have a captain that can literally cause natural disasters, or have you not been paying attention to the obscene amount of stuff he destroys on a regular basis? Naruto dropped his shoulders. I don't mean to cause all that havoc regularly. People just attack or provoke me and then the bad stuff happens. Naruto's a good boy. Nojiko rubbed the whisker marks on Naruto's cheeks. Yes, I know Naruto-kun is a good boy, but it doesn't change the fact that you destroy 85% of the things you touch. So frankly, whenever this ship pulls into your port, you can more or less bank on something getting obliterated before we leave. Now that's a little extreme. Naruto replied. However, he was still putty in Nojiko's hands from her delicate touch. I'm not that bad. Oh, Nojiko asked. Well, what about how you met Nami in the first place in Orange Town? She told me the story. Naruto was still defiant. That shouldn't even count. I didn't even do 95% of that, it was all Luffy. Nojiko wasn't deterred. Well then, what about the little town where you met Usopp? I was getting annoyed by the cat guys. They were all super weak. Naruto still had up his defense. I didn't even do any property damage there. Nojiko's grin returned full force. Well, how about the prime exhibits? What you did all over Kami Island to the Arlong pirates. And then what you did in Logatown. And then on Starter Island. Arlong pissed me off. Smoker was an asshole, and on Starter Island Soren did like half of that too. Grill him. Naruto nearly shouted. Soren along with the rest of the crew watched in amusement as Nojiko ripped Naruto's excuses asunder. Hey, this isn't about me, Uzumaki. This is your intervention. You have a problem with mass amounts of destruction that you need to address. Let your friends help you. Naruto flipped Soren off while Nojiko continued listing things off. And then you did all of that damage at Whiskey Peak. How I didn't wake up I'll never know. And then you killed all of those snow rabbits on Drum Island. Hold on a minute, I damn sure didn't do that. He pointed at Johnny and Yosaku. Those two did that shit. Animals love me, I would never do that. Yosaku raised his hand weakly. Well, you did kind of train us, Naruto and Ikki. That makes you responsible for the things we do. Johnny nodded in agreement. Naruto glared at both men and made a half-tiger seal before they both dropped hard on the deck on their faces. Nojiko's face exuded victory, and even if all of that other crap never happened, then what did you do once we got to Alabasta? You did more damage there than the entire rebellion. Vivi gave Naruto a deadpan look. Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. You did, didn't you? Bullshit. Naruto let out raucously. How did I do more damage than an entire rebellion? Nojiko placed her hands on her hips. I remember seeing a huge tornado in Nanohana when we first got there, and then we heard people talking about how it ripped the town up once we got to Rainbase. Speaking of Rainbase, you nearly bankrupted the casino, which would have destroyed the city's economy if Crocodile wasn't already subtly doing that. And then you messed up Alubarna in the fight with the Admiral and the Marines. Face it, Naruto-kun, you're a walking, talking weapon of mass destruction. Fine. Naruto conceded the point to Nojiko. You win. The ship is now the natural disaster. Yada. Nojiko exclaimed in victory as she latched a hug on a dejected Naruto. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? Naruto sighed. For the majority of my life I've been trying to get peace to settle over my home once and for all, and it was close to actually being pulled off when I left. Now I leave and I discover that my entire existence is a cause of perpetual combat elsewhere. I don't even know what to say about that. Everyone was silent until Miss Valentine spoke up. Naruto, you seriously have to tell us about the stuff you used to do before you met us at some point. Nojiko tugged on his arm with a smile. Well then, all you have to do is get the rest of the world to do it too, right? If you did it once already, then why not in other places? Naruto gave her a smile in return. Yeah, because the first time all it took to pull it off was a war between every nation I knew of and one man with an endless army, and even then it still took more than 150 years to get peace to even start to settle, with a figure of intimidation and power like me getting things moving in that direction. He thought sarcastically. But Ero Sennin said peace to the world, not the elemental nations. I bet he didn't know how big the world really was when he said that. Naruto gave Nojiko a kiss on her lips and held her close to him with one arm, one step at a time. Noji-chan. I still don't even know how your world even works. The people I grew up around are pretty much totally different than anyone I've met so far. And the company for the most part is better too. You are going to tell us about yourself at some point, right? Nojiko asked hopefully. Out of all of us we know the least about you, and you're the captain. You need us to trust you. You guys don't trust me. Naruto asked everyone around the ship. Johnny shook his head. Me and Yosaku do, Naruto and Ikki, but Nojiko Ainu is right. We don't know the first thing about you other than that you're the strongest guy we know. Miss Valentine shrugged. It's all right with me. We've all got secrets, it's just that some people are better than others at keeping them. Asked the princess, who ended up blowing her cover. She finished with a laugh. Vivi pouted at Miss Valentine's crack at how she was discovered in Baroque works before speaking. I don't know any pirate that has a squeaky clean past, but I do know that you're a good person, Naruto. Sounding off next, Soren jumped down from the crow's nest. I don't care. Who am I to care about what you did way back when after you know what I do? You're still a more decent guy than 90% of the people I've ever met, so I could care less what I know about you. Naruto looked at everyone on the ship and smiled faintly. You guys all believe in me, so don't worry. I'll tell you about me soon, I just hope what I say doesn't change anything. XXX, 4 days later, what the fuck is this? Nojiko shouted from her room, which had been designated as her workstation, walls with maps, ocean currents, and general information on some of the places they might end up. In a matter of moments the doorway was filled by Naruto and Johnny, who had a mop in hand. Naruto-kun, get over here and look at this. Naruto did as asked and saw that Nojiko was sitting on her bed reading a newspaper. Where she got a current issue of the paper he didn't know, and he wasn't sure he really cared to find out. What's up, Noji-chan? Nojiko lifted the paper and tapped her finger on Naruto's picture. Check your new bounty out. Naruto's eyes rested on the number and he nodded to himself before walking to the door and yelling, Soren, get over here and check this out. Johnny walked over and started reading over Nojiko's shoulder before his eyes bulged out from behind his sunglasses. Soren walked into the room holding a barrel over his shoulder. What do you want, Uzumaki? I was just about to pop this thing open and here you come yelling for something. Naruto grabbed the paper from Nojiko and shoved it into Soren's face. Suck it. My bounty's higher than yours after 3 months at sea. How do you like that? Soren dropped his barrel and pulled the paper out of his hands and paced about, staring at it intently. You got 245 million. What the fuck? How are you a bigger threat than me? I've done way more illegal stuff than you. Nojiko's eye twitched while Johnny snatched the paper from Soren and started reading through it himself. You're actually proud of being a wanted criminal with a massive bounty. Naruto and Soren both looked at each other before turning back to Nojiko. Naruto spoke first. Well, if you're going to be a wanted man anyway, you might as well shoot for the top right. I mean, who wants to be number 2, like Soren? Fuck you, Uzumaki. See. Naruto motioned towards Soren. The number 2 guy is always bitter and angry. Not like number 1, who's always cool as a cucumber and has a hot girlfriend, and another hot girlfriend elsewhere on the seas. Speaking of which, can I spend the night with you again, Noji-chan? Focus, Naruto-kun. Nojiko yelled with a blush on her face. This bounty is massive. Why the hell is it so high? Because I'm awesome, Naruto said questioningly. Soren shook his head. That's half of the reason. You got the best of an admiral and allegedly kidnapped royalty. While I'm pissed about it, I'm surprised it's not higher after thinking it over. I guess that means they really were going to screw Vivi over once they got a hold of her. Everyone in the room stood or sat in contemplative silence before Naruto snatched the paper back gleefully. Well, that's enough with the tension. I'm going to go gloat to everyone else about how badass I am. Naruto exited the room. Yo. Guess who's better than all the rest of you combined? His voice echoed throughout the ship. Soren patted Nojiko on the shoulder before leaving the room. I have no idea why you chose him, but good luck with that. The sex must be killer. He disappeared from sight before Nojiko could reach for a gun. XXX, being that he was the captain, Naruto had the most massive room in the entire ship, right under the helm and right next to the common room. However, there wasn't really much to take note of. There was a large window that allowed Naruto to look out the front of the ship, a desk across the room that had nothing on it except Naruto's stockpiles of tools. Kunai, explosive notes, shuriken, a 10-pound spool on ninja wire, normal stuff. Naruto had to keep good stock of his things, as when he ran out that would be it. He wouldn't have any more. He had yet to find a blacksmith that sold any tools, and it was difficult to stay in any place long enough to get anyone to forge any for him fast enough. Naruto himself was seated on his bed at nightfall, looking over the 16 3-prong kunai on a tarp with a frown. He had no way of getting any more made at the moment. He didn't know how to mold the metal to make weapons. All he knew how to do was prepare the markers for the kunai. Returning to a hidden village and having them make more for him was an impossibility. Two of the things that eventually lead to a peaceful understanding between all of the nations was that he was a neutral party in all affairs, and secondly, the prepared kunai for the technique that required them were outlawed across the entire landscape, so even if he was able to get into a hidden village, he still couldn't get a blacksmith willing to touch anything even resembling his space-time kunai. Naruto was expressly forbidden from having any allegiance to any ninja village, hence he was more or less a tolerated nuke nin. He was a hero, but he was a wanderer, living like a hermit, much like his sensei Jiraiya, except with absolutely no allegiance. A small price to pay for the harmony of hundreds of thousands of ninja, he would say. It wasn't like there was any reason for him to continue fighting anymore. No longer affiliated with any ninja villages that could allow him easy rest and without skilled smithies that could create the kunai necessary for the move, Naruto had to use Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Jutsu, sparingly. He could only use it when he knew he was going to be able to retrieve the kunai. His original plan of exploring the world outside of the elemental nations was simple, i.e. stupid. He was going to try to tag the places that he found so that there was always somewhere to return to. However, he severely underestimated how many islands there were in the world, and he eventually had to Hiraishin back to the places he had tagged to retrieve the kunai he had left, lest he run out before he found some way to restock. It didn't matter now. With his ship he could go anywhere anyway, it would just take longer. Thinking about tagging places, he slapped his own face in stupidity. He forgot to give one to the Straw Hats to use. Now he had to wait until he found them again before he could even start using it when he wanted. It still pissed him off that he couldn't freely use Hiraishin though. I mean, he trains and trains to get it just right, killing plenty of boulders, poor trees, and body cells in the process. He reverse engineers the entire jutsu from scratch all on his own. He does all of that and he can't even use it whenever he wants to. Do they know how long it took him to do all of that? A fucking long time. People were born, lived full lives, had children, watched said children grow up, died, and then had their children die for the process to repeat all over again, and he still hadn't learned the damn jutsu yet. Hell, he still wasn't as good as his dad was at using the jutsu. He needed the pre-tagged kunai and couldn't tag a person or object on the fly or in general, just the kunai. Naruto was roused from his thoughts from a gentle knock at his door. He rolled up the cover holding the Hiraishin kunai and placed it under his bed before walking over and opening the door to reveal Nojiko in a white robe, unable to meet his eyes. "Can I come in, Naruto-kun?" Naruto grinned at her and ushered her inside before shutting the door behind her. "You never have to ask to come see me, Noji-chan, you should know that." Nojiko walked in with her hands behind her back, feigning interest in the appearance of Naruto's room. "So whatcha doing? Anything important?" Naruto chuckled at how Nojiko was trying to play off why she was here. Why else would she show up to his room in a robe? He shook his head. "No, not really. I don't do anything important unless it's getting all of us into some kind of trouble." Naruto sat down on the edge of his bed. Nojiko gave him a smile and moved behind him on the bed. "You're good for way more than causing trouble, Naruto-kun, though that does seem to be what you're best at." She sat on her knees behind him and draped herself over his shoulders, pressing her bosom into his back. Setting her chin on his shoulder, she gave him a peck on the cheek. Naruto reached up and rubbed Nojiko's cheek gently. "You know you love it." He felt Nojiko's hands roaming his chest with need. "So what, can I ask, have you come to see me for Nojiko?" "Don't make me say it, Naruto-kun," Nojiko whispered in his ear as she felt him loosen the belt of her robe. "Apparently you already know anyway." She reached lower and pulled his shirt off over his head before returning to running her hands all over his muscles. She let out a soft moan when she felt Naruto's hand slip inside of her robe and begin rubbing her breast. "That was very brave of you, to walk around the ship, even at this hour wearing nothing under this robe." Naruto felt Nojiko wrap her legs around his back. "What if somebody caught you?" Lemon start. "Well, they didn't," she replied happily before switching to a more sultry tone, "and they won't because I don't plan on leaving until tomorrow morning, love." Nojiko shrugged the rest of her robe off, leaving her bare form draped around Naruto's torso. The hands of Nojiko lowered and unbuttoned Naruto's pants while she started kissing the back of his neck. Naruto finished what she intended and took off his pants and boxers, leaving him in the buff just like Nojiko. Her delicate hand found his tool and began stroking him to length. "You aren't messing around, are you, beautiful?" Nojiko giggled and kept kissing his neck and working his cock, silently taking into account its size. "Well, I know what I want and I'm tired of waiting for it, so go ahead and give it to me." Naruto turned over and stayed on top of her where he softly kissed the tattoo going from her shoulder across her ample chest, where he stopped and descended to her dark-colored nipples, rolling them gently between his fingers as he watched Nojiko shift beneath him from the sensations she was feeling. Naruto had enough and began suckling gently on her areola, using his tongue to tease her as he routinely switched sides to Nojiko's delight. She bit her lip tightly and held Naruto's head against her chest as she coaxed him to continue his actions by gently scratching his scalp. Hearing his lover coaxingly coo encouragement to him was like music to Naruto's ears as he let his hands travel south and brush against Nojiko's sheath. Feeling her shiver from his previous action, he used 2 digits to enter and stimulate her most precious place. Why is he so good at this? Nojiko's body was moving in time with each entry and exit of Naruto's fingers as she let out a whimper. Naruto-kun, the girl let out a cry of passion as she felt Naruto's thumb brush against her clit and wall of restraint came crashing down. Naruto's mouth and now soaked hand removed itself from Nojiko following her orgasm, prompting the young woman to sit up and look at him inquisitively only to find him sucking his own fingers clean, bringing a bright blush to her face from such a bold action. He saw her face and chuckled, "What can I say? You taste pretty good." Naruto then leaned down and kissed Nojiko on the lips, tasting the girl's woman's lip gloss and her tongue as she gained entry with it into his mouth. Still not sated yet, Nojiko steadily rubbed her womanhood against Naruto's dick to get herself off. Naruto broke the kiss with her and looked at her as she gazed back up at him lovingly. "Why do you want me, Nojiko?" "Because," she replied slightly out of breath from the kiss, "you're an amazing person. You treated me like someone would treat a girlfriend even before we kissed, and you've done so much for me. You have no idea, Naruto-kun, you just don't." She shifted beneath him to adjust his tip right at her entrance. "So, is it because you don't want to? Is that why you asked me that?" Naruto frowned when he saw the look of dejection in the blue-haired girl's eyes. "That's not it at all. I'm just thinking too hard for no reason. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now." Nojiko smirked at him. "Thinking was never your strong suit." She nipped at his nose playfully. "You said before you're more of a man of action. Well, there's only one action I want from you right now." "How can I possibly argue with that, Noji-chan? Do you need me to take it easy on you?" he asked half-jokingly. Nojiko lightly slapped him on the shoulder. "No, there's no need. I lost it in an accident years ago." "Go ahead." Naruto nodded and finally entered Nojiko's core with his natural sword, hearing her moan softly as he buried himself inside of her fully to get her used to the length before the fun really started. After a moment of getting used to the full feeling, Nojiko kissed Naruto on the lips. "You can go anytime now, Naruto-kun." Unable to keep himself from doing so any longer, Naruto began working his hips, providing the momentum needed to start making Nojiko cry out in ecstasy. Nojiko was incredibly tight. Something he had expected when doing this had crossed his mind in the past, but didn't make it any less mind-blowing to have wrapped around him. Feeling the blonde shinobi's eyes solely on her, hands caressing her hips as they held her in place to let him fuck her made Nojiko feel like the most important woman in the world. Even the erotic motion of her breasts jiggling back and forth by the repeated motion couldn't keep Naruto's eyes away from hers, when she could tolerate the sparks of pleasure to keep them open to look at him in return, of course. "Come on, Naruto-kun, pant, give me some more." She breathed out heavily. "Show me how much you love me," she instructed him, hand reaching up to lightly scratch his whisker marks. Something she had discovered drove him crazy no matter how well he could hide it, and the act of love-making with Nojiko left him unable to fight the physical reaction to such an added feeling. Growling lightly to himself, Naruto grabbed one of Nojiko's legs and placed it over his shoulder, putting her on her side and allowing him to hit her from a completely different angle that made her cry out in delight once his manhood started plunging in and out of her wet, hot center. Hearing Nojiko scream, Naruto increased his tempo and began kissing on Nojiko's calf, also running his hands up and down her well-toned legs. Living with him on this ship definitely kept the lovely girl in fantastic shape, he had to admit, as her toned stomach moved rapidly in succession with her breathy noises. Nojiko felt like he would split her in half from this position, and she loved every bit of it. Her heart and body instructed her to sing out her satisfaction for his forceful ministrations, lifting her delicately forceful voice to shout his name, hoping that marine ships had very thick walls lest she wind up waking everyone else aboard. She didn't really care in the end. As long as Naruto fucked her like this whenever they hooked up, they could know whatever they wanted as far as she was concerned. "Don't stop, Naruto-kun, I'm so close." "Well, let me help you finish then, Noji-chan." Naruto set her back on her back and lifted her other leg over his shoulder to begin plunging even deeper inside of her from a different spot. He leaned his head down and proceeded to cover Nojiko's lips with forceful kisses that she returned right back, groaning and crying out into his mouth while their tongues dances and their lower halves met. Nojiko wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck, holding him close to her as she cried out into his ear her passionate sounds of appreciation for his special attention, even as she could hear him lightly groan in the crook of her head and neck while she switched to gently and not so gently biting his earlobe to tease him. Nojiko felt her limit approach rapidly to bring their experience to an end far too rapidly for her own tastes, disregarding how much actual time they had just spent enjoying one another's body. Her toes curled and her body shivered as Nojiko left scratches on Naruto's back, signifying she had reached her finish with a wail of finality. Naruto himself, feeling Nojiko clamp down on him and pulse around his member, followed shortly after his partner had, shooting his load inside of his willing lover, hearing her let out a soft, sexy moan as she felt the white jets saturate her inner walls. Naruto pumped the rest of his load into her, rubbing her thighs and squeezing her pert buttocks. He needed to try that out next time they did this, while trying to not lay down on top of her and keep his weight off of her. Nojiko felt his body pull off of her and sit back onto his knees, keeping her legs up on his shoulder, allowing her to get some much-needed breaths while he finished thrusting his seed into her. Naruto could shoot a lot, she figured. Naruto finished firing into her and looked down at his beautiful girlfriend, seeing her basically glowing after their raucous session. He pulled out of her, much to her vocal displeasure. Not that he could argue, as he had missed her soft, wet snatch as soon as he freed his cock from inside of her and lay down next to her, pulling her close and getting himself underneath his sheets. Why aren't you getting under with me, Noji-chan? She glared weakly at him. I see, can't move, stupid. Naruto smiled at her and lifted the lower end of her body, depositing her underneath his sheets with him to allow her loving warmth to wash over him while he held her against him. Nojiko's head rested on his chest and her legs draped over and around his while she could feel their combined fluids slowly flowing out of her with a small sense of satisfaction. We're going to be doing this again, a lot, she stated decisively. Try to keep me away, he responded, feeling her nuzzle his chest comfortingly. When I came I was still. Nojiko cut him off. It's okay. While you were doing nothing in Alabasta, I was doing some shopping. In a little pharmacy in particular, and they had something quite helpful in that department, so you're good. Not that I would have minded. So you say now, Naruto quipped, feeling Nojiko bite him on his chest in reply. Sleep well, Noji-chan. A small grin came onto her face as she shut her eyes and yawned before responding. Oh, I will, Naruto-kun. Trust me, I will. Finally letting exhaustion claim her at last. End Lemon XXX. Marineford, sitting in his large ornate office, a tall middle-aged man with glasses, a long braided beard, and a cap on his head adorned by a life-sized seagull was speaking on a den mushi with a look of annoyance on his face. You were where? Wow, I don't know what to even say about that. What do you mean you'll be able to get back in 2 weeks? You need to get back to Marineford and see to your duties as Admiral immediately. He listened for a moment before palming his face. I'm sending out a ship to come and retrieve you, and then you are to return straight here. I need you to tell me everything you can about this Uzumaki. Someone that can do that to you is too dangerous to be left alone. Be ready soon, Kizaru. With that he hung up and redialed. I need you to get me Dr. Vegapunk. He waited for a moment. Yes, tell him Fleet Admiral Sengoku has requested that he prepare his new creation for a test run of sorts. If he can spare more than one, then tell him that would be just fine. He stood silent for a reply. Have him program the name Uzumaki Naruto as their primary target objective. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.